we're going to be punctual. So welcome everybody. It is 8:15 in Rio, 7:15 Eastern time. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm really excited to be hosting College Talks Tutor Edition. My name is Gretchen, by the way. I am the academic director here at LogicPrep, and I have also had the privilege of working here as a tutor for 7 years and still tutor today. So tonight is College Talks Tutor Edition. Murillo, who is our director in Brazil, has previously hosted other college talks that featured LogicPrep alumni who are either currently in college or recently graduated, sharing their experiences, their college experiences with current LogicPrep students. And that was particularly valuable last year during the height of the pandemic when college visits weren't possible. Especially for students to get a sense of what are these colleges that they're dreaming of going to or potentially applying to. So tonight's going to be similar, except instead of featuring LP alum, aka former students, we're going to be featuring some of our awesome LP tutors. So tonight we're going to be hearing from Sigrid, who's going to be speaking about her undergrad experience at Yale. Stephanie will be speaking about her experience at Williams. She also has a master's and a PhD from Duke, just no big deal. I'll be sharing my experiences as an undergrad at Princeton. And then finally, Thomas will be speaking about his experience as a math major at Georgia Tech. So thank you so much, Sigrid, Stephanie, Thomas, for being here and for participating. I'm really excited about this. So for all of you guests, we hope that in sharing our experiences and some of our tips that we learned along the way, we may inspire some of your own college dreams and thinking. I know we have some seniors in the room that registered before the event. So if you're a senior and you're choosing between one of these 4 schools for your early deadlines, hopefully this talk offers you a little bit of clarity of what it's really like to be a student. But please, please, please do not change your entire college list right before your early deadlines. Otherwise, all of your college advisors and your essay coaches will absolutely kill me. So only if you're already thinking about these 4. For juniors, let this talk ignite some of the excitement about going to college. That will help you motivate you through the standardized test prep that you're slogging through or just getting started on, and in your schoolwork during this year, as I know it's a challenging year. If you have a strong sense of what you're shooting for on the other side, hopefully that'll help you power through. And then for the sophomores and freshmen and any younger students who are here, welcome. Good for you for being here. You're in a really good moment right now because you don't have any rush at all. So just soak up with the information, let it spark some ideas and dreams and get excited. This process of college applications and everything seems really scary, but it's actually a super exciting moment in your life too. So get started early and have some fun with it. So the format of this evening will start with 10-minute presentations from each of our panelists about their college experiences. And after that, I'll moderate a Q&A session. I've included some questions that some of you have already submitted upon signing up. And if you have any questions that come up during the presentations, just throw them in the chat or in the Q&A feature here in Zoom, and I'll be sure to include those as well. So without further ado, let's get down to it. Sigrid, take us away.
Hello, everyone. I am, as always, very excited to be talking about Yale because I loved my time there. And I am going to share my screen. As I said earlier, you have some embarrassing college photos of me to look forward to in this PowerPoint presentation. So hopefully that will keep you engaged. All right, so I will share this and present. Can Gretchen, someone confirm that this is looking okay?
Yes, you're good.
Awesome. Great. Great. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about Yale. I'm going to try to give you a perspective beyond what you could find just by looking at the website, because I think anyone who has started looking at colleges online knows they all can kind of start to look the same. So I'm going to go through some of the basics and sort of like fundamentals, but I'm also going to try to give you like a little personal insight into what my experience was, which is not everyone's experience, but it's a way of just trying to give you kind of one window into what it's actually like to go to Yale. So let's start. First off, Yale is located in New Haven, Connecticut. I really love New Haven. I think it kind of is like the the Goldilocks sweet spot in terms of college city to go to college in. It's not too big, it's not too small. You are close to New York if you want to go to New York for fun activities, but there's also plenty to do in New Haven. And I actually spent 2 summers in New Haven because I enjoyed my time there so much, working on various projects and research. It's a very safe city. I never felt unsafe when I was at Yale. Truly, like, as I say here, there's on-call shuttles, Yale Security, New Haven Police, who most times, like, not only do they exist, you often can see them. The shuttles, like, are truly on call. I will be totally honest in saying that I used the shuttles not because I felt unsafe, but because I did not want to walk through the snow. It does snow in New Haven. When that happens, I would sometimes get escorted to class via one of these shuttles. Again, not because I felt unsafe, just because I was lazy and I do not like the cold. So that's just a bit about New Haven. Moving on, Yale, what is it all about? What's the deal? In my opinion, I think Yale is very much a choose your own adventure buffet. There are many different Yale experiences that you can have, but what makes it really unique and what I think makes it really wonderful is that you have all of these options, but you also have a ton of guidance and support in navigating them. Just some of these resources are FROCOs, which are freshman counselors. These are people who live with you in the dorm your freshman year. And one thing that, like, a lot of schools have RAs or have, older students who kind of assist younger students. At Yale, FROCOs are like it is a competitive process to be a FROCO. It is something that, like, if you are selected to do, it is an honor. It is not, like, considered a burden, which I think is, like, speaks to sort of the camaraderie that Yale students have. Like, people really want to be FROCOs, which is very nerdy and exciting. And FROCOs are there, for just like anything. They're very, they're usually, very open and very supportive individuals who go through this, like, really extensive vetting process. You also have your academic advisor, who, even before you've declared a major, this is just someone who is, a professor at the school who is just willing and able to speak to a freshman about whatever their interest may be. You also have your residential college and dean. I'll talk some more about residential colleges in a moment. But the dean kind of is your advisor for academics. The head is more of an advisor for everything else. And I, in my experience, like, it kind of seems like, okay, these are, sort of administrative heads. They're also professors. They're super busy. They're not really interested in students. That could not be farther from the case. Every dean and head, like, has office hours. I knew the dean and head of my college extremely well. And so did, like, a lot of my friends, regardless of what they were majoring in. These are people that you see almost every day. Who are really, like, there to support you. You also, of course, have faculty, right? Professors that have office hours. Yale is really big on undergrad being the focus. So it's, it is not uncommon for faculty to, like, not only have office hours, but, like, have office hour events or really, like, want to engage their students outside of the class. You also have advising support from your peers. I will be honest, I don't know if they still call them blue booking parties, because when I was there, this makes me feel ancient. There was an actual blue book that had all of the classes that Yale offered. They were also online, but you still got, like, your physical blue book. And there are parties, like, clubs will host parties where everyone goes through their blue books together. And, the seniors will tell you, like, oh man, definitely don't take that class if you're interested in this, take this class. It's actually, like, much more suited to your interests. I think I selected most of my classes freshman year from these blue booking parties, which is, like, a really cool way to kind of, like, immediately gain the insight from older peers. Okay, academic-wise, there are distributional requirements. Basically, you're taking 2 credits or classes in each of these areas. They are very broad and very easy to fulfill. So within, each of these topics, there's like quite a variety of classes that you can take. And oftentimes, like some of them are going to overlap with your major. In general, like meeting these is not very hard, right? Like if you want to be taking, a mix of classes, it's easy to meet these requirements. Yeah, they're not sort of like the main, some schools I know have like a core curriculum. That's not really the case here, but it does kind of force you to be like, okay, like I am super into humanities and the arts, but like I was glad that I had to take a science class. And the science classes that I took were like, environmental science for beginners, like very, very friendly to someone who wasn't in that discipline, but also like challenging and making me think across disciplines. Then you have your majors. Truly more than could fit on any slide. But I just highlighted here some of the ones that I think are unique probably to, or maybe not unique entirely to Yale, but are beyond like the standard ones that you might expect. I did not major in any of these, but if I could go back, I would major in all of them. Maybe not at the same time. But yeah, there's a wide array. This is something you can see on the website. And yeah, and I certainly, like one thing that was kind of cool and kind of looking through this, like I think I know someone who majored in all of these, which also sort of speaks to, the kind of like cross pollination or the cross discipline camaraderie that you're going to be friends with people who have a lot of different interests. Residential colleges. This is another big component of Yale. These are like your Hogwarts houses. So basically freshman year or before freshman year, you are sorted into a residential college that becomes your home for the next 4 years. They are not like Hogwarts houses in that, like, they're not looking at like your personality type or, you don't have to take a test of any kind. And that's actually part of what makes them really great. So each residential college is diverse in every way. So diverse in terms of backgrounds, diverse in terms of academic interests. It's not like one college is like where all the science kids go. The only sorting that happens is that they make sure like, okay, they look at kind of like what people's general interests are and try to make it, kind of across different spectrums. There are 14 in total. And this really is like your home on campus. This image, so on the bottom right hand of the screen with the grass with everyone, looking very idyllic and studying and whatnot. This is like very true to life. This is Pearson, which is the college that I was a member of. And this is like what life looks like. Like you lie in the hammock and, talk to your friends and, study on the lawn when the weather is nice. Yeah, you're sorted into these, colleges, and then you live there, you eat there, you can eat at the dining halls at other residential colleges, but especially freshman year, I think it's really nice to kind of like be in a big, awesome university, but also have like a really close-knit community in which like you're seeing the same people every day. But if you don't want to see the same people every day, you can go somewhere else. So again, choose your own adventure, buffet of experiences.
Sigrid, if you can believe it, you're at 9 minutes.
It's okay. I'm good. But really, Yale is all about, here come the embarrassing pictures, playing bocce ball competitively with your friends, standing on ostrich eggs in South Africa on a research trip, being in a Bedouin camp, also on a research trip with friends, seeing Roman ruins across the world, playing golf with your roommate who is on the golf team, going to formal events with a bunch of friends and getting dressed up in silly costumes, being in a Jello wrestling fight, and having a really close-knit community within your peer groups and your seminars. So this bottom one is a seminar that I took with one of the foremost experts on World War II history, who like truly became a mentor to me beyond even academics. So Yale is all about extracurriculars, and I'm going to go through these ones quickly. But extracurriculars, I can't stress enough, like these are just some of the things that I did. And these are some of the things that my friends did that I can remember right now. Like extracurriculars are a massive part of Yale. It is totally, like I would say that my friends were often equally, if not more, engaged in their extracurriculars than their classes, because they're really diverse. There's a bunch of interesting stuff going on. Every night there's like a performance or a debate. And that's really part of what makes Yale shine, I think, beyond the classroom. Also, there are puppies. This is Handsome Dan, who is our mascot. He is a bulldog. He is very cute. How did I do?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sigrid. That was fantastic. I'm a little bit, you set the bar high for the rest of our presentations. Great. So if any of you have follow-up questions to anything that Sigrid talked about in her presentation, just put it in the chat or in the Q&A. We'll come to those at the end. And Stephanie, you're up next. Oh, wardrobe change. I love it.
All right. Oops. How do I also present at the same time? I'm like actually not, despite being doing this during a pandemic, I'm not the best at Zoom.
Yeah, we use Google Meet more often.
Yeah, we use Google Meet, so I'm not the best at Zoom. All right, here we go. So I will be talking about Williams College. I obviously liked my time there so much that I became a forever student, and that's why I went to Duke and am now doing a postdoc at Stanford. So my collegiate experience kind of defined my, life trajectory. Williams is a very small liberal arts college. It's only about 2,000 students. So I can't even really talk about where Williams is because it's in Williamstown, Massachusetts, which is about it's the northwest corner of Massachusetts. So we would fly into Albany, and it's about a 20-minute drive to Vermont or upstate New York. So your college experience really is about being on this campus. I know that might sound a little bit like, oh my God, that means there's not much to do, but I certainly enjoyed it. And I think it can be very appealing to a lot of people. And even just, I miss it so much right now in these moments, like September, October, this is when small campuses like Williams really shine in New England. To start off, I did do a little bit of rebranding. Purple and yellow are colors. So what does a liberal arts education mean, especially at a small college like Williams? Typically, students take 4 courses each semester. And there are requirements. You have to take 3 in each of these divisions. So languages and arts, social studies, science and mathematics. But similarly to Yale, it's very easy to reach those requirements. There are, language courses usually satisfy those, which is also a requirement. So if you took, Spanish or French or Chinese in high school, continue that, and you've basically satisfied that requirement if you want to focus a little bit more on STEM. Same for science. If you're focusing on the humanities, they had, history of science courses, which satisfied those for, the students who aren't so quantitatively inclined. There are a few secret requirements. Art history, which is actually a 2-semester course, is practically a requirement because even though Williams is so, supposedly in the middle of nowhere, it's surrounded by a lot of great art. The Clark Art Museum is just a few, maybe a 15-minute walk from campus. We also have our own museum on campus as well. And it's about a 30-minute drive from Massimoco, which is one of the major art museums in Massachusetts, modern art museums. So everyone kind of ends up taking art history at some point. And it's one of those things that really unites Williams undergrads in that, you know, we all have this basis of being able to think about architecture and paintings, and connects us, you know, very well to, even though we're far away from New York, people are constantly going to cities like New York and Boston with, you know, a new appreciation for the museums that they're seeing. Unique, I don't know how unique this is to Williams, but there is actually a PE requirement. And during your first week, you will actually have to pass a swim test. If you don't know how to swim, they won't require you to do it. But I think it's one of these, you know, it's a tradition now. So a mini requirement is a swim test, and then there are PE, but it's not a full semester, it's like quarters. So they're pretty easy to get through. And if you do play a sport, it counts towards those to an extent. I think you can count 2 towards it. And I'll talk a little bit more about sports in the next slide. Academics kind of are the foundation of Williams, just because, you know, you're there, you're on campus. But there are some ways where they're made really unique and fun. So between the 2 semesters, fall and spring, we have winter study. Some places call it a January term. It's usually the month of January. It's an opportunity to explore kind of an interesting topic with a little bit of depth. So unfortunately, I only did 1 true winter study. I know you're thinking about what we could change. This might be one of them, because so mine was on Beethoven. So I got to listen to like Beethoven and classical music and read about his life. And I have an interest in music, but I don't play an instrument or anything like that. So just an opportunity to kind of discover something that I wouldn't be able to study. But I used another winter study to do a short study abroad in Guatemala. I majored in comp lit, so that was an opportunity for me to bump up my Spanish skills. So you can really make it your own. And then I studied abroad my junior year, so I wasn't on campus. And then my senior year, I used it for my senior thesis, but I didn't do it justice. It's a really unique opportunity to be in a really small class, you know, working. I know friends who did like bioluminescence and, you know, like in like big math problems, like how do we think about these big math problems? So it was a really fun experience. And if you don't know how to ski, you can also satisfy your PE requirement by learning how to ski. Williams makes it really accessible, although New England isn't the best skiing in the US, or snowboard. And then there are tutorials. I did take advantage of tutorials. I did about 3. They're based off of tutorials at Oxford. And they're basically you and 1 other student meet once a week with a professor. 1 week it's your work, the next week it's another student. So I was kind of in comp lit, so I was writing a lot of papers, doing a lot of like analysis of literature. But you know, you can imagine if you were an art major, you would be doing like kind of portfolio reviews. Or if you were in the sciences, it would be like how you're developing your experiments in the lab. So it's an opportunity for you to really kind of almost become a researcher before you're even, before you might even have like a concrete example of the areas that you want to go into. And it's an opportunity also to get great feedback, like constantly from your professors and your peers. And I think that's one of the things that really sets Williams apart is this is a small liberal arts college. What does that mean? Professors don't have graduate students. Professors are doing research, but they're really dedicated to undergraduate students. And tutorials are like the perfect reflection of that. You have access to, you know, some of the brightest minds in their fields and they want to work with you to the extent that they're going to read one of your papers every week and comment, or every other week and comment on it. Social life, it begins in your entries. So what is an entry? It's kind of like colleges, but they're actually physically entries. Like there are specific freshman dorms. They've changed over the years, so I don't really want to name them because I don't know all of them anymore. But this one in the background is Williams. And the door that you enter into, like, is your entry. And that is how so I was in Willie E. And that was the entry, and that's like your entry point to Williams. Those are the students. It's a very diverse mix of students. It's not based really on anything other than like where you end up. But that becomes your Williams family. Those are the people that you go to different a cappella concerts on campus with, that you first start, going to the dining hall with. It's kind of like a built-in social group that you have from the beginning. And there are about 25 students per entry. So that will include your roommate, but also, everyone who's living in that entry. And it's your introduction to the JA system. JAs are junior advisors. They're like the FROCOs. They're juniors who did not study abroad and decided that they wanted to really help Williams freshmen get to know the lay of the land. So they're like your, big brother, big sister, helping you out when you get to Williams, navigating, questions around clubs to join and what are the best dining halls and things like that. Likewise, it's a very these are people who want to stay, and it's a very competitive, prestigious position to become a GA. Clubs and athletics. Basically, if you don't join a sport, you're going to join an a cappella group. But there are many, many, many other clubs on campus, but those are kind of like the big ones. And I mentioned sports particularly because even though it's a small school and you might think, oh, they're focused on academics, it's very competitive. I believe Williams is Div 3, but in some sports it is Div 1. So I think like squash and maybe swimming, or it used to be. So there are a couple of sports where it's highly competitive. But it's very easy to continue if you've always been a student athlete. It's very easy to continue on that path at Williams, while being able to like focus on getting this world-class education. But there are so many other clubs and sports. It's in Williams is in the Berkshires, so there's great hiking. Ultimate Frisbee was also a big sport. A little bit of our rivals. I played rugby. And I'm here in the background. And actually we're wearing Amherst jerseys because we beat them. And that's part of our rivalry. And so that was the rivalry with Amherst is another part of like the social life at Williams. But there are numerous opportunities to be in a number of different clubs and sports on campus.
Awesome. Stephanie, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up after this one.
And then one of the biggest things in social life, Mountain Day. It's one day in October, a Friday. The president of the college announces like no more classes for today. So everyone goes and hikes up the mountain, and we have hot cider and donuts. And it's just one of those things that like you get to really experience this beautiful place that you're in. Williams has great dining halls. There is no Greek life, but I think that that's a benefit because it didn't create, certain, cliques on campus. And then once you're at the end of the year, there's some great like senior events, like senior week, where, you could have fancy balls and things like that. So yeah, Williams is this place where you can climb high, climb far, your goal's the sky, you're in the star.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Stephanie. Amazing. Okay, let me now fumble a little bit with Zoom. I'll go next and keep it snappy so we have time for some question and answer. Here we go. Let me click present. Okay, panelists can have a thumb up that you can see my screen. Okay, amazing. So I'm going to be talking about Princeton. Yeah, beautiful place. So I'm going to start out with some fast facts here, just some numbers to sort of start to tell a little bit of a story about Princeton. I think all of these are kind of important. So there's about 5,000 students for undergrad. That means it's not like a super, super tiny school, but it's still a small school. And similar to what Stephanie and Sigrid were talking about with Williams and with Yale, the focus really is on the undergrads. So the graduate enrollment is significant, but there were often jokes amongst the undergrad at Princeton that we felt bad for some of the grad students because they were a little bit isolated, and it really did feel like the focus was on the undergrads. So benefit for going there as an undergrad. Related to that, there's no professional schools at Princeton. So even though it's an Ivy League school, there's no medical school, law school, or business school. And again, they say that has to do with the fact that they are really focusing on their undergrads. One thing I think is interesting, I forgot this picture, since 2001, financial aid at Princeton's been based on grants and not on loans. Today, 61% of all undergraduates receive financial aid and 82% graduate without any student debt. Their goal is to have it be 100% of students graduate without student debt. But I say that because like Princeton is, Ivy League school, history, lots of obviously like affluent relationships and things like that. But it is really repositioning itself to try to become a more diverse campus and to have students from all different backgrounds. And this financial aid program is one of the ways that they make that happen. The final number that I want to share here that is really important, I think, to the Princeton experience is the annual attendance at reunions. So we'll switch to this next picture. Reunions at Princeton happens every single year. So you don't go for your 5-year reunion. You don't just go for your 10-year reunion. If you want, you can go every single year, and many people actually do. It's a 3-day event. It happens right before graduation every year. It's kind of crazy. And this is one of the events of reunions called the P-Raid, where every class, it starts with the oldest classes, the oldest alumni, and then progressively adds the classes after that. So the tradition is that the graduating class gets to join the P-Raid, and then the following day they basically graduate. So what that is to say is it's not only a huge party that happens every year that everyone goes back to, but alumni really care about Princeton, about the Princeton connections, and the alumni network is really strong. And that not only goes for parties, but also for getting jobs, networking, getting informational interviews with people. I'm a part of a couple of Princeton email listservs that are super active, and people are always willing to help out another tiger. So I want to say, I'll give you a little bit of a disclaimer almost about my Princeton experience, because my experience is my experience and there's a million different versions of what it might look like. So majors at Princeton are called concentrations. I did molecular biology. I also did a certificate in dance. My main extracurricular activity was a student dance company called Body Hype. And to Sigrid's point, I definitely spent a lot more time doing stuff with Body Hype than I did on my academics, although I will not tell my mom that. My residential college was called at the time Wilson College. It's now called First College. It's kind of similar to the way it works at Yale. And then in my second 2 years of Princeton, I was involved in an eating club called Cap and Gown. And those eating clubs are something that's kind of unique to Princeton that I'll talk about a little bit later. Oh, I had pictures for all of these. I'm sorry. Molecular biology. Dance minor, Body Hype. This was Wilson College, now First College. This was my freshman year dorm. And then this is Cap and Gown. So Princeton's also a liberal arts school. Similar to what Stephanie and Sigrid shared, their distribution requirements that I promise you they were called distribution requirements at the time. Now they're called Gen Ed requirements. They look kind of complicated, but they are super easy to meet. So if you approach the course book with a sense of curiosity and just pick out some courses that you think sound interesting, you'll probably hit all your distribution requirements, with maybe one more math class if you're not quantitatively inclined. There are so you have a lot of flexibility. You don't declare your major until the end of your sophomore year. Although there are a couple of special programs that like sort of restrict your flexibility if you know that you're already interested in them. So one of the majors you can do is the School of Public and International Affairs, and that requires you to actually apply for that major, which is different from the rest of them. Obviously, if you do engineering, you have a ton of engineering courses, so you have a little bit less flexibility. They also reduce your gen ed requirements, so you don't have to meet quite as many of them as well. And then there are also 2 intensive programs that you can engage in during your freshman and sophomore year. One is the Hume sequence, which is, I guess, a little bit similar to the core curriculum at Columbia. It focuses on everything humanities in a really intense way. And then there's also integrated science, which takes an approach of really integrating all physics, chemistry, biology really intensely, and having those courses be taught not as separate courses, but intermixed throughout those first 2 years. So your first 2 years are really a great time for exploration if you're not involved in one of those special programs. You're going to be focusing on your distribution requirements and really not really focusing that much on them, just taking classes that sound interesting to you. Oops, I went too fast. Once you declare a major or a concentration, you'll have concentration requirements to fill. And so that'll sort of dictate a little bit more what your schedule will look like your junior and your senior year. Another big thing that dictates your junior and senior year is independent work. This is a huge thing at Princeton. So in your junior year, you have 2 junior papers, one in the fall and one in the spring. And then in your senior year, you have a senior thesis that every single student is required to do. This is a really big organizing part of your junior and your senior year, and exactly what that independent work looks like depends on what major you choose. Interesting, at Princeton, there are no double majors, and I think that has a big part to do because of this senior thesis. As someone who did one and a certificate in dance, it would be impossible to do more than one. That said, you have minors, which they call certificates. You can really do a lot of really diverse stuff with what you put together with your coursework. And there even is, you can apply if you have a really strong interest that's not met by the different majors that they offer. You can apply to do an independent major, where if you really have something passionate and you show that you're committed to it, you can basically major in whatever you want, even if it doesn't exist. So I kind of talked about that with the junior and senior independent work. Some classes that I took to fill my distribution requirements, which I just thought were fun to share because they were a little bit unique. My freshman year, I took a journalism course called Media and Society, the Obama Presidency. This was taught by 2 visiting professors, one who worked at the Washington Post and one who was a journalist at Politico. And they taught this course. It was a once-a-week seminar, really, really interesting. I also took a freshman seminar called Into the Woods, What Disney Didn't Tell You About Fairy Tales. That was kind of fun. A sociology class that focused its topics around different Bruce Springsteen songs. So we had a different song and a different topic each week. I also did Mideast People and Societies, Psychology of Gender, and American Bestsellers, which followed kind of American history through the bestsellers of different ages, starting from the colonial periods, and we finished reading 50 Shades of Grey, which was like a class elected thing. So all this is to say, I was a nerdy molecular biology major, like super into the sciences, and I still had time to do all of these kind of fun and interesting classes. So it's a really great balance. Senior thesis, like I said, is a huge part of Princeton. You get it printed, everyone has these like little books. In terms of specifics, I would say like the shortest senior theses are probably about 60 to 80 pages. Again, it depends a little bit how long your senior thesis is, depends on what major you are and what you're focusing on. It's intense. Mine was about cell curvature, enhances division, and Caulobacter crescentus. This is a little C-shaped bacteria. I was talking about how the C shape actually helps it divide better. And I include this picture of my best friend, Maggie, who would probably kill me, who was writing her senior thesis in literature about Game of Thrones, which is the book that is on top of her head. I share this picture, one, to kind of show like it is an intense thing. It's worth it. It's a really big rite of passage. And I think doing your senior thesis, your independent work, teaches you a lot about yourself and teaches you a lot of skills throughout the process. it is intense, hence her her position. But also she got to write about Game of Thrones. That was a pretty cool senior thesis topic. And she and I were best friends, and we studied together like this every night of most of our college experience. So me with my little mold bio stuff, her with her Game of Thrones literature stuff that honestly got over my head in the way that she explained it. And as Sigrid was saying, in terms of cross-pollination between different academic areas, I think it's a good example of that here at Princeton too. I am running out of time, but I'll just say that Princeton's right between New York and Philadelphia. I thought when I went there that I was going to go to New York all the time. I didn't. There's plenty of stuff to do at Princeton. Although it is a small, like kind of quiet college town, like really kind of suburban. So if you're looking for a big city, this is not really your place. I'll show you quickly housing. So this was one of my dorms from the outside and the inside. I think I had just moved in, so that's why it's so organized. And then the last thing that I'll talk about just a little bit before stopping is the eating clubs. So these have an interesting reputation for Princeton. They're basically the social organization of Princeton, particularly in your junior and senior years. So there is Greek life, but it's really not dominant. And instead, what people do is they join one of these eating clubs, typically you go through a process called BICR in the end of your sophomore year. That's basically like an auditioning process to join one of these clubs. There's a downside to them in that like they have a little bit of a reputation in some circles of being kind of exclusive, particularly some eating clubs more than others. I won't name which ones they are. But my experience personally with the eating clubs is I did not have the same residential college experience that Sigrid described. My first 2 years when my life was organized by the residential college felt a little bit more lost. And then when I joined my eating club for my junior and my senior year, that's where I really found my Princeton family and the friends that I keep in touch with to today. So mine was cap and gown, the one that's over here, second row. And like I said, it kind of helps you find like-minded souls. So it can be an exclusive thing, but it doesn't have to be. And in my experience, it really made all the difference for me to find the people who weren't cliquey and the people who I really could bond with. Okay, I'm letting all of us go like a minute over. Amazing. Thomas, you want to finish us off with yours?
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to also say those were amazing presentations.
Thank you.
Good job, guys. And it's also really cool to see everyone who's here and the participants. So hello to everyone. So let me get started with mine. Got to troubleshoot the screen sharing. 1 second. Again, also, like they said, so used to using this. Yeah, I might have to re-enter. So 1 second, bear with me, guys. Sorry about that.
In the meantime, attendees, if you have any questions for anybody, submit them in the chat. While we're waiting for Thomas to come back, I'll start a little bit of a Q&A, and then we'll kind of interrupt it and come back to him. But Stephanie, you touched on this a little bit, so I'll go to Sigrid first. Is there anything that you would do differently about your college experience? Oh, okay. Thomas is back. Sorry.
I'll think about it.
Preview. Everyone think, what would you do differently about your college experience if you could do it again? Cool. How are we doing, Thomas?
I think it's going to work.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah.
Amazing.
Is it working?
Yep.
All right. There we go. Cool. So after all of this talk about smaller campuses and liberal arts, we're going to get to Georgia Tech, that already in its name has tech. and also is in a different sort of scenario. So I'll be mentioning a lot of that. And it's sort of a different experience for sure, even though there are certain parallels as well, I think. Relative to some of the universities here and a lot of the ones in the US, Georgia Tech is a newer university. And so it copied certain things, but it also did its own sort of take and spin on certain things. While I was on campus, for example, they actually moved all of the books out of the campus. And so now the library is a collaborative space for people to work together on projects and stuff like that. And if you want the books, you can get them ordered, but they are actually not there. Take that as you will. Some people will love it, some people will hate it. I actually was in student government when that was happening, and so that was sort of a hot topic. But the library is pretty active. I mean, I actually had some fun facts, like some Georgia Tech alumni donated like Oscar statuettes to the library, and so I held some myself and felt like Jack Nicholson because there were two. So I was like, whoa. They're surprisingly heavy, so you never know. And like I also got the whole Newton's Principia sort of first edition. I think that's also one of the beautiful things about some of these universities as well. Okay. So yeah, as I said, it's an urban campus. Like it's in the middle of Atlanta, literally in a part called Midtown. And as you guys can sort of see here, the little bit of the Atlanta skyline. One of the buildings here is the Coca-Cola headquarters, and stuff like that. And although it's in the middle of the town, it's in the city, it's still got sort of a campus environment, like the colleges that everyone described. So it's like it's still sort of pretty self-contained. You walk the streets, you see your friends, like you see the professors. It's still got like Sigrid mentioned, this sort of campus police and some of the blue light systems, so you still feel pretty safe and like you're in the Georgia Tech bubble. But then it's also super easy to leave and go explore Atlanta and explore other towns, and so it's got a little bit of that flavor to it, and I really enjoyed it. I went around Atlanta a lot. I also took advantage of the fact that it's the world's busiest airport in the US, or in the world actually. And so I traveled a lot to conferences and to different places. I made it to 41 states in the US after graduating. So one of my proud achievements there. And it's also a really growing city, I must say. Like I graduated in 2018. And I entered in 2013. So it's something I'll mention. It's normal for people to take longer than 4 years at Georgia Tech. And so that was just something that like, I just saw the city develop in so many ways, and so many people came in, and a lot of young people moved, and companies, and there's a really big tech scene. Google just opened its offices in Atlanta, and they hire heavily from Georgia Tech. So that's also a big experience there. And so it's definitely a really cool, thriving young city now as well. So definitely a big part of life. All right, this is one of the big things about big schools, as well as these traditions, right? I, coming from Brazil, thought this was very interesting. My high school had little of this, and Georgia Tech has a lot of it. So here on the top left, we have Buzz, the mascot, who roams the campus as well. And so I've been high-fived by Buzz on random moments, and it's quite a fun experience and big Georgia Tech thing. Also to the right is the Rambling Wreck, which is the Georgia Tech sort of vehicle car, one of the Model Ts. And you cannot touch it as a freshman. So that's one of those things that it just brings bad luck. And so it's and you can actually ride in it. I have some friends who did that, and they ride into the football games. It's kind of fun, and you get this wonky old experience. People steal the T from everything. I don't know where this comes from, but they do that. There's this big tower that says tech on it, which you probably saw on the first screen, and it has been stolen. I have no idea how. People speculate as to how this is done. Most tech schools have this sort of nerdy rivalry with pranks. MIT and Caltech also have that, and we sort of with them. I've already done some nerdy pranks at MIT myself. And then that's just one of those things that there's the T missing, and you go to like the signs, and they also miss the T's. And there's this thing called the rat cap, which they give to all of the freshmen, and so this is sort of one of the big uniting things. I still have mine. I think some of my students might have seen it. And you write "To hell with Georgia." speaking of rivalries, that's our big rivalry because Georgia Tech is a big state school, so we're rivals within our state as well. And that's sort of what we say because Georgia is the University of Georgia, the big football rival. Even though I must say they are better than us at football, we pride ourselves at being stronger in academics. And yeah, they're #1 in the country right now. So it's not really that much of a competition, but for them, but it is for us. And we pride ourselves in that. And then there's also these really nerdy gems like this Mickey Mouse clock that not even a lot of people who go to Georgia Tech know about. And so that's definitely that's the building that I used to go to, the math building. As Gretchen said, I major in math. So that's the one I spent a lot of time in. So yeah, a little bit about my experience. I sort of also will speak a little bit about the professional side and research and stuff like that. I definitely think there's a big focus in Georgia Tech at that. Like a lot of students take time off to work in between semesters, and it's really encouraged to do so. I think that's sort of different to some of these liberal arts colleges. And I'm not talking like summer internships. I'm talking like taking a whole semester, sometimes a whole year in between to do that. And so I did that. I lived in Germany and did a summer program there through Georgia Tech, actually. So Georgia Tech has some like structures to help you find jobs internationally as well. Like some of the alumni that are all over the world bring like advertise their companies, and some big companies like BMW, like this is the one in Germany, right? But like all sorts of companies advertise for Georgia Tech, which I thought was really cool as well. Coming from Brazil, I took the opportunity to go back home to work. So sort of my parents, they wanted me to go back, and so I found a reason to do so. And I definitely attribute a lot of the professional success I've had to Georgia Tech as well. It's really well regarded, and it really has helped me a lot. And I also spent a lot of time doing math research, as esoteric as that sounds. And so that was something that I did a lot there and taught and really enjoyed. And yeah, I played club basketball. So I used to play basketball really seriously, and I thought about playing that in the D1 scenario, but I ended up just mathematics was too much, and so I played at the club level. And as I said, I was involved in student government, which was really cool because you got to know a lot of people, right? Yeah, I mean, the academics is, as I said, with the Georgia thing, is really one of the big things. And it's a public and research university, so different, very different from what Stephanie was saying. We definitely have a research focus. So there will be some professors who are not as much there to teach. And that is part of the experience for sure, even though they're sort of improving that when it comes to the tenure track. And the public thing is also really important. I mean, you really see a lot of people from the state of Georgia coming in, and you really feel like you're part of that community with about 40,000 students. So definitely a very, very, very large campus compared to that. I mean, there are much larger ones in the US. But as one of my friends likes to say, and I think it can also be applied, it's sometimes better to get something big and make it small. So you find a little bit of everything and then you find your clique. But that's also something that I had to make an effort to do at Georgia Tech. I didn't think it was as easy as as everyone said at the smaller colleges. And yeah, so we are also organizing this college system. We have 6 different colleges. I will say College of Computing and College of Engineering are the biggest colleges. It's still a very nerdy thing. I know some people mentioned like being non-techie, and so we do have liberal arts, and people do that. And but you still get sort of, you have to take mathematics, you have to take physics, and so you get that as well. But that's also really cool, right? I met a lot of people who worked in like nuclear energy policy and stuff like that. So you get to apply that in other fields as well. Sports, so different from most of you guys. I'm assuming there was a stadium with 50,000 people, and that's sort of an experience in itself for sure. Like that is sort of like, and these stadiums in some of the colleges in the US are bigger than the professional stadiums in a lot of places in the world. And so I mean, that was just a crazy experience. I stormed the field one game we won. I think that was definitely, if you enjoy watching people who are going to go play in the NBA and in the NFL, like, and meeting them, I taught some of them math as well. So yeah, it's really cool, and it's really got that environment. There are 43 club sports, and so there's a lot of stuff. And they're the Olympic facilities, right? Because in 1996, the Olympic Village was in Georgia Tech. So the record in the pool is from the Olympics. A little hard to beat if you're ambitious. And we do have a water slide. So a little shout out to the water slide on campus. Really, really cool.
Amazing. Time warning.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm almost there. And so just as I was saying, there's a little bit with the professional and research opportunities, definitely a big thing. People do intern a lot. It's sort of like the cred on the campus. It's like, oh, what did you do this summer? And then people sort of name drop where they went. And you can intern internationally. And I thought I'd include this picture of this movie called The Internship because it is very nerdy and it was filmed on campus and it sort of reflects a little bit of the whole vibe. There's a lot of platforms for that. And then the last thing that I really took a lot of advantage of was traveling and meeting people from all over the world. I mean, there are people from all 50 states and a lot of international students as well. I really enjoyed that. I really learned a lot of languages from just being around international people. And it's a very, very unique environment. And people do study abroad. It's not even just one of those few things, like more than half of people study abroad. And we have 2 campuses that are abroad. And I think that's one of the cool things. I know Yale has one in Singapore as well. And you can take the classes from Georgia Tech and you're living in France or you live in Shenzhen. And I think that's really cool because you really get to see the world with your buddies, with your peers. And so you don't get that sort of, I did the opposite. I went to some university and that was also an adaptive, like a period of adapting, but it's definitely something I took a lot of advantage in and really enjoyed. Yeah, and that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Okay, I let everyone go over like a minute or two. So we're gonna do a really short Q&A. I have 2 questions that I wanna ask everyone. One is, why your school? In a 30-second response. Who wants to go first?
I can, yeah, no, yes, Stephanie, go.
I think there's nothing like the attention that you get from professors at a school like Williams. You get to, and even professors that you're not going to work closely with, right? Like they're all there, even if you're majoring in math, but you want to take a comp lit class, like they're there for you, and there's nothing like.
I will answer with what actually struck me about Yale when I visited the first time and what stayed true throughout, which is the people like just are happy to be there. And that might seem like a silly and kind of sappy thing, but it's genuinely true. And there's, well, certainly like there's, stress and life stuff and all, everything happens everywhere. But there is like just like an enthusiasm for learning and for like friendship. Like there's such a social atmosphere that is very positive. Yeah.
Amazing. Thomas, you want to go? I was listening. I wasn't thinking of my own response.
Yeah. No, I like to sort of say that way. Yeah, I would say that as much as it seems like it's very structured at Georgia Tech and it's like a lot of nerdy people, I think it's the diversity, it's the mentality to explore, to go do things, like to go get practical experience, go have impact. And yeah, living in a thriving city, I think that's also cool. You get to experience that as well.
Amazing. And I would say maybe for Princeton, above anything else, and this is going to sound a little weird, it's like what you get after you graduate. I think the alumni network at Princeton is just kind of crazy. And I remember someone saying that to me during my freshman orientation. And I was like, that has nothing to do with me right now, but it does have something to do with like basically the rest of your life. So that was a big differentiator for me. I'm going to change the question that I was going to ask. The question I have, because everyone who's attending is high school right now, they're thinking about college. They can follow up with us afterwards about what we would do differently about college. But if you were in high school right now and you're in this moment of college, thinking about college, blah, 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 what advice would you give to your younger high school self?
Should we just go in the same order?
Whoever wants to go first.
I can start, actually. I don't, that didn't take me by surprise. Yeah, I mean, what I would say is I thought I had it all figured out. And so I went to a tech school. I didn't apply to anything that was not tech. I didn't even look at any of the schools you guys went to, and had that bias. And I think what really changed for me was explore. Also, like, take time to figure things out. There's a time that you can do different things, and like some of Sigrid's experiences, like go see different things and try out different internships and just different experiences and enjoy that. I think finding a place where you feel like you can do that to your liking is crucial.
I can go. I think I would have like more taken to heart the advice that I was being given but was not listening to, which was that like I will be fine wherever I go, which is like, you know, again, I'm now being the person saying that to high school kids who are going to have a hard time hearing it or accepting it. But to put some more weight on that, I like in my life beyond Yale, like a lot of my best friends went to Yale and have done, you know, incredible things. And a lot of my best friends did not go to Yale and have done incredible things and are like super happy and amazing people. And in fact, like, I think benefited largely from not, you know, being in the pressure cooker sort of mindset that I totally was in order to get into Yale. And I think making those connections after college was very much like, oh, like, you just had like a really chill, fun time while I was doing, you know, 45 bajillion extracurriculars and loving it. But like, that also is a very valid and amazing experience that has like served a lot of my friends well, truly, regardless of where they went.
Amazing. Stephanie.
Yeah, as someone who's, you know, just lives on college campuses, you get to make the college, like the college doesn't make you. So it's like, it's whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And obviously there are differences, right? Like Williams is very different from Georgia Tech. But it's still like you get to kind of decide what it is. And so don't think of it as this experience that's gonna form you in a certain way. Like think of it as an experience that you get to kind of mold.
Amazing. And I think my advice, which was something I tried to take to heart when I got to college, is enjoy the ride. I was such like a perfectionist and hard worker in high school that like I look back on high school and, you know, high school's not great for a lot of people, but I didn't feel close to anyone when I was graduating. And so I really made a concerted effort when I got to college to do this different. I'm going to work really hard, but I'm also going to prioritize my social life. So as hard as you work and do work hard and do reach for the stars, also remember that like this is your life too. So enjoy the moment that you're in and the process that you're in as a high schooler, and don't rush it away too quickly. Okay, we are 3 minutes over, but we did good, guys. Thank you everyone who came and listened to us, and thank you panelists. Thank you Sigrid, Stephanie, and Thomas. This was really fun, and yeah, hope to see you all soon. Good luck with your applications or your test prep, everybody.
Good luck. Thank you.
Bye guys.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank you.